Hi, this is Francis Potter, Solution Architect with GitLab, and today I'm going to talk about insights type functionality in GitLab, because there's a lot of different functionality in the product that is kind of insightful, and it can be a little confusing as to what all there is and where it is. And so I put this together for a customer and just thought I would share it in a video format in case it's useful to anyone else. This is not restricted to the product feature called Insights. I think there's a little bit of confusion around the names of some of these features. So this is Insights type functionality in GitLab, and I've loosely grouped them in ways that kind of made sense to me. So bear with me here. We're going to start with insights related to productivity and speed, because one of the main value drivers for GitLab, of course, is to help our customers deliver better products faster. So and the top one is Cycle Analytics. Now, Cycle Analytics is the current name. Supposedly, it might be renamed Value Stream Analytics at some point in the near future, but that's the current name. And notice on each of my slides, I've got where you find this feature, because these features are not all in the same place. There's no one navigational approach to them all. So there's a little handy guide here. We've actually got project level Cycle Analytics from the Project Overview tab, and there's also a top-level Cycle Analytics, which you can actually get Cycle Analytics by group if you want it. Now, Cycle Analytics is showing you the amount of time that your work is taking in each stage, and those stages are defined in specific ways that make sense to GitLab. But in fact, there's coming soon a new feature that's going to allow administrators to configure what those stages are and how they're defined, so that you can actually have your own stages. This is cool, but only really useful if you're using all the parts of GitLab right now. And so it's kind of, although it's in many ways the cornerstone of GitLab, it's a little bit of a challenge to actually get meaning out of it currently. Then there's Insights. This is actually called Insights for issues and merge requests. This is kind of a query-based chart thing. I'm showing issues here, but you can also look at merge requests, and you can actually design the queries in YAML and designate how you're querying the issue and merge requests, so that you can show different factors and break it down in different ways. This is super, super powerful if what you're looking at is issues and merge requests over time. There's another feature called Productivity Analytics, which is mostly focused on merge requests. This is only accessible from the Analytics tab at the top of the UI, I believe. And so some of this is sort of similar to the Insights merge request stuff, but you can also look at some details like time from last commit to merge and number of lines of code per commit. So you can look at kind of a little bit kind of different sort of data in Productivity Analytics than you can in Insights. And it can be a little confusing as to what you might use each of those for. Then there's the brand new Code Review Analytics that you can pick from the left margin. This gives you a little bit of query, but your main goal here is to look at review time, which is how long something has been in a review process. And there's a definition of in review, which is something like the time from the first comment on the MR until the MR is merged. And there's also a great little query box here for Code Review Analytics. I hope that we see more of these query boxes in other forums. There's also Issue Analytics, which is only available at the group level. As near as I can tell, this is a subset of the information that's available in Insights, and Insights is a more powerful feature, so with more, like the query language and everything. So I'm not really sure if this is useful, but maybe it is. Certainly, you don't have to write a YAML file in order to use it. So then moving on, that was what we just looked at was insights related to productivity and speed. The next section is insights related to contributors and code. So now we're digging in a little bit more on your source code and who's contributing. There's a product contributors page, which, although it's just called contributors, is actually kind of a dashboard with a wonderful time series graph of how many commits have been made and then how many commits by each of the major contributors. This is actually, I think, one of the more interesting charts in all of GitLab, because it gives you at a glance kind of a sense of who's been contributing, who hasn't, over time. You can also pick your branch for that. Then there's contributor activity. This is just a slightly different view on the same thing. This might not be sort of so much of an insights thing, but I think it's a really useful sort of log of recent contributions and the activity that's been going on, and kind of at a glance you can see what's going on inside any given project or group. There's also the graph, the branches and commits graph. And once again, you might not think of this as sort of insights, but at a glance, you can see the amount of activity going on, how much simultaneous activity has been going on, who's been committing often, who's been committing less often, is there a lot of merging and branching activity going on. It's sort of a lot of information in one place, and especially if you're digging in on what's going on in a particular project and repo, this can be really helpful. Finally, there's a whole other section called Contribution Analytics. It's got pushes, merge requests, and issues by contributor. And this is actually in a separate area. This is a group level feature. It's in a separate area from the contributors graph that we saw a few minutes ago. But once again, useful for telling who's been making the most, doing the most work and making the most contribution to a project. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of options here though, so this is a pretty fixed chart. Finally, you can actually look at the programming language in the repository. Now, this is a weird little feature. If you're in a repository, it's called charts, which is confusing because we usually, when we use the word chart, we're talking about Helm charts, which are a completely different thing from this. And there are two charts on the charts page. The top one is programming languages used in this repository, and the bottom one is commit statistics. Now, I'm pretty sure that most of this information is available elsewhere. For example, the programming languages used in the repository is available as a little strip right across the top of the repo in the main view. So I'm not really sure you'd come here too often for that. And the commit information is in some of the other charts and pages that we saw under speed. So I'm guessing this is kind of an older feature that's maybe being sort of superseded by some of the things that have come in more recently. Okay, that was just contributors and code. Now we're going to look at insights related to pipelines and environments. So now we're digging into more of the CI/CD functionality and kind of what's going on there. First off, there's a great thing called a pipelines chart, which unlike all the other charts is kind of got these like smoothed out curves to it. But this is kind of giving you a sense of how much activity there's and how much success there's been with your pipelines over a recent period of time. Once again, it seems like there's not a lot of controls here to really control anything, but it's pretty to look at, and you might be able to see if like you've had a lot of failures recently or something like that. This is available at the project level under CI/CD. Once again, it's called charts. There's also the pipelines list itself, which is a little bit more of a functional page than really an insights thing, but there's so much here. This is kind of in many ways, if you're running CI/CD, is many ways sort of the centerpiece of your work with GitLab. You could see at a glance the recent pipelines, whether they've succeeded or failed, who ran them, what all the jobs were, how long it took, and you can like link out to the environments and the logs and everything directly from here. And so once again, this is kind of an at a glance view of what's going on with the CI/CD for the project. There's also the environments and deployments list. This is under environments, under your project operations. And once again, it's sort of at a glance, what's up in each environment, how much activity there, or how many pods are in each environment if you're using Kubernetes. And you can link out to here, from here to either the environment itself in a web browser or to the terminal in that environment. So this is a really kind of a central place. It's both insight as well as kind of active use within environments and deployments. And I think of it as sort of an insights type of functionality. Then kind of rolling up, there's the environments dashboard, which just came out a couple of releases ago. This actually shows you that information about each environment, but in more of kind of a nugget form. And you can actually configure this for yourself, so you're showing the environments that really matter to you on one page. And this cuts across multiple projects, so you can really kind of monitor what's going on in a lot of different environments, all from one location. Finally, there's a thing called Operations Dashboard, which actually preceded Environments Dashboard and looks really similar, and it can be a little bit confusing. But you could think of Operations Dashboard as being more general. There's a cell for each project instead of a cell for each environment. Also, this is going to give you CI/CD information or CI information, pipeline information, even if you're not using CD. Even if there are no environments at all for a project, this is still relevant. So this is more at the project level. Once again, it's configured kind of like by each user. Personally, I wish it looked a little different from the environments dashboard, or I wish they were merged in some way, but it's a separate thing, the operations dashboard. Okay, finally, insights related to application security. There's a wonderful security dashboard available, and a couple of other insights features related to security. I actually didn't add those in this presentation because the customer who was asking about them wasn't really looking at them very much, but it's really important to mention insights related to application security. So I hope this has been helpful and interesting. I'm going to make these slides available too, or you can ask me if you want to see them, and thanks a bunch.